Oasis Audio presents Connecting the Dots by Joël Malm, read for you by the author. Chapter 0: Your Circular Story. There are two ways of getting home, and one of them is to stay there. The other is to walk round the whole world till we come back to the same place. G.K. Chesterton. The beginning of one of the most confusing, frightening, and frustrating seasons of my life started with a phone call. Had I known that call would lead to me moving my family to Mexico, having our home broken into, and me angrily tracking down the dangerous thieves, having our lives threatened by a gang leader I ticked off, outrunning corrupt cops in a high-speed chase, and ultimately escaping all that chaos to start a cafe in the Andes Mountains of South America, I probably never would have answered the phone. That's the story I'm going to tell in this book, that horrible season of my life. It was a season I wouldn't have wished on anyone. Sounds inspiring, right? For years, that season left me baffled. It felt like a setback. I once heard a joke about a guy who walked out his front door and saw a snail on the porch. He picked it up, looked at it, then threw it across the yard. A year later, that same man heard a knock on his door. He opened it, but didn't see anyone. He looked down and saw a snail. The snail looked up at him and said in a squeaky voice, "What was that all about?" I was that snail, and the man at the door was God. I was left asking, what in the world was that year of my life all about? I'm going to tell you the whole story of that wild year, but before we start, let's talk about you. I know you've had a few seasons of life when you felt like a snail that got tossed across the yard. You've had painful experiences you never saw coming, relational struggles, divorce, illness, financial problems, and all sorts of personal battles. You were doing your best to live right and be faithful, but right in the middle of it, chaos struck and threw you into a season of just trying to survive. It took everything you had just to get back to where you started before the turmoil hit. You might be in the middle of trying to crawl back to where you started from right now. I'm also guessing you have your fair share of questions directed at heaven. Why did it have to end that way? Why did they leave? Why didn't God do something? Why is this happening? Did God allow this because he's mad at me? Why? When life punches us in the face, it's natural to ask why. We all want some sense of meaning and purpose. We want to understand why what's happening is happening. We know that if we can understand just a little, find some meaning or purpose, it will help us get through the difficult times. In some way, every great religion and philosophy of the world is an attempt to explain the pain and suffering we experience in life and give some meaning to it. Pain is a human universal. Jesus said, "In this world you'll have suffering." Buddha said, "Life is suffering." We all have pain. If you think you don't have any pain, you're ignoring it. We all face pain, and deep down, we want to make sense of it. We want to know why. After working with lots of people as a counselor and leadership coach, and working through my own whys, I've concluded that the question why isn't the best one to ask in the middle of your pain. The better question is, how am I going to respond to this? Why is for later, how is for now. The answers to why usually only appear when looking backward, from further down the road of life. In the words of Soren Kierkegaard, life is lived forward, but can only be understood looking backwards. If you're asking why in the middle of the pain, it can quickly lead to despair and hopelessness, because there's a good chance there isn't a good answer right now. The answers will only come later with the perspective of hindsight. Pain and suffering tend to lead to short-sighted thinking. We get so focused on removing the pain that we lose sight of anything other than the things that promise to eliminate it. But when we can get some higher perspective on our situation, it can make all the difference. In the words of Viktor Frankl, in some way, suffering ceases to be suffering the moment it finds its meaning. When we feel there's a purpose, it's a lot easier to hold on to faith and feel we'll find our way forward. That's my goal with this book. I want to help you get a bigger perspective on everything that has happened to you. I want to help you see that God really has been up to something big. There's an end goal in mind for everything you are facing, have faced, and will face.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?